All right, we are recording live. So, like I was telling Jimmy, the last thing we talked about, Garrett, is that we wanted to maybe talk about World War One. We did say that.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Oh my
we did
gosh.
say that.
Well, who wants to kick it
So
off then
like
with World War One?
Well, the reason we
nine nine
the
nine.
reason we started talking about it was because we started talking about the war in Ukraine and basically how history is portrayed in the moment is completely one-sided as,
Yeah,
oh, the Germans are bad or Russia's bad, and it's not in any kind of defense
it's
of the
true.
war at all. But when you actually dive deep into the history of it, like World War One's a perfect example. You're taught in the history classes until you get to the upper level and you really start digging deep that the Germans were the aggressors, the Germans were the bad guys, the Germans were this, the Germans were that. In reality, the the beginning of that war was such a complex situation from so many different angles that,
Yeah,
I mean, there were nations that before the war, before they declared war on one another, they'd already mobilized their entire army in preparation for it. Essentially, in the beginning, it was a land grab. Everybody wanted in on it because the only wars that they'd ever experienced were ones that had taken place, in a month or two. It was really just a glorified battle. And then they were like, oh, the Germans are going to war with the Russians. Well, then we want to be on the side of the Germans, we, the Ottoman Empire, because we want Russian land. And the Russians, everybody had the same mentality, like, whoa, why don't we just all hop on the same sides? That way, when this is over in a couple months, we'll just take all the land that we want. And so, basically, the point that I was making is that when you hear stuff today, just a
yeah,
stark declaration that one side is good and one side is evil. The reality is that the situation is so much more complex than that, and that it deserves a lot more nuance than it's been given to actually observe it most accurately. You know?
yeah. And I think trailing that or going before uh, that topic is you said how those things started out, but really how World War One started and laying the seeds before World War One was Napoleon, the Napoleonic Wars, and because Germany fought with England, as in they were allies then, fighting against Russia. I mean, fighting against France, and with Napoleon, those wars were really were the seeds of the next World War. The Napoleonic Wars, and with Napoleon, really was the first World War. They don't say it, but I mean, it was fought in Egypt. It was fought in Russia. It was fought even in America. I think actually, I could be wrong. I could be wrong about this. I think that the Battle of Lake Pontchartrain, you go see the sign in Louisiana where we live, could have been a part of the Napoleonic Wars. It may not have been. I
Maybe it
think
was it was either that or revolutionary.
it was either that, um,
But yeah,
and
no,
even then
the
has that ties. Even then is ties with
right,
later in the
right.
French Revolution.
Well, that's right, because the American
Yeah,
Revolution led to the French Revolution, which led to the Napoleonic Wars. But
yeah,
the Louisiana Purchase, the perfect example, the doubling of the
that's
country
right. You
was a
see, yeah,
direct result of the Napoleonic
that's right.
Wars.
Yeah, that's right. And really, it was a world war. I mean, the Napoleonic Wars were, and it when France lost that war, when Napoleon lost, it sowed the seeds for World War One because the battles like
Okay,
Austerlitz were a million
yes,
people. I mean, they were fought.
right.
I don't know if you want,
So,
yeah,
well, this is what I wanted to jump in on, is that that's the exact same thing with World War II, is that
yeah, that's right.
this is the thing that deserves so much more nuance, is that World War II, just like you said, you can draw a straight line from one event to the next. They
Yeah,
led in a complete succession from one to the next over the course of 100 years. It's like the Carthaginian
yeah,
Wars with Rome. It was just
yeah,
one extended battle that was the terms were just never really settled because
that's right. Yeah,
after what happened was, and this is going back to the beginning, at the end of World War One, Germany surrendered, the Axis
yeah,
powers surrendered, and or was it the Axis? Or I forget which, whatever.
yeah,
But they surrendered, and the Treaty of Paris was signed in France, in Paris,
yeah,
declaring that basically Germany could not fight any longer, and so they were essentially bent over a barrel. They had no negotiating power, obviously, when you're
Yeah.
surrendering to the great nations that were involved in that war, and they lost a unbelievable amount of land. And really, the terms of that treaty that ended World War One treated the Germans unbelievably unfairly. I mean, it was ridiculous. Some of the things that the economic strain essentially made them irrelevant until the beginning of World War II, and that's how Hitler came to power. Which obviously nobody's going to defend Hitler, but it's rather looking through the eyes of the Germans, where they'd be, well, why wouldn't we go to war then? Because we were treated so misfairly. They're painting us as the enemy. In reality, we share a border. We've shared a border with these people for centuries now. They
Yeah.
are us. We are them. Yet we got so much of the shorter hand in this deal, and that directly led to World War II because that was the
Yeah.
spirit of Germany. Why they were so fierce when they came out and attacked, and you could apply that exact same thing to Russia today. I believe that it's
Yeah.
not that Russia is just this evil empire. That it's these people have been treated in such a way for ever since the end of World War II and the end of the Cold War. It was never really an alliance was formed with these people, and obviously,
They
I'm not going to
they
defend
said
communism. What?
with Russia, they said that Russia had made deals with NATO that like, hey, don't creep further east. And like
Exactly.
NATO, they made like they made an agreement, like a deal, like, okay, don't creep NATO further east. And at the
Exactly.
time, like, there wasn't a lot of NATO countries around Russia,
Hmm.
but now it's creeped up like to Russia's border, like Ukraine. Like, I want to join NATO. Like, you're literally on our doorstep.
Exactly.
So a lot of people are saying that with Russia got super mad about that, and that was a big like a lot of people say Russia is like, yeah, no duh, we're doing this because we literally made a deal that you wouldn't creep NATO up to our doorstep. But
Exactly.
that's just one
It's
nuance to it.
this. It's this. That can be correct, and we can also say that it's an abomination for man to declare war on another country
Yeah.
today, and the loss of 100,000
Killing
lives.
people is bad.
Both those things can be true simultaneously. The problem is that you only hear one side of it, and that overshadows the other side completely, to where
Yeah.
it's almost that you're deemed radical to even express the
Thou shalt not
reality of all
kill.
these things.
Well, and I would say even going further back, if we're tying it into the Ukraine, Napoleon did try to invade Russia and failed. And if you think about it, England, obviously United Kingdom, Germany, and Russia were allies fighting against France, and that paved the way for Germany to rise and also for Russia to rise. I don't want to lose my train of thought, but that paved the way when in World War One, we're going right back to it, when Russia, and this paved the way for what Russia is actually today, is because of World War One, the Bolshevik Revolution, the revolution in Russia,
Right.
all of those ideas because of World War One, and think about the result. I mean, I'm trying to tie it back into Napoleon paving the way to World War One
Hmm.
happened with the Russian Revolution because of how terrible the war was, how the people facing starvation,
Hmm.
hard economic times. I mean, that's all a direct correlation into how Russia became like a Bolshevik communist country, but that still has elements of it today. Um,
Hmm.
into what's going on now. I mean, I can draw it all the way there, but
It's
and that
it's
leads into
this.
World War II.
It's this. The problem with people claiming that the United States and the nations that be are so right in the support of Ukraine and the condemnation of Russia is what that actually means to the world at large is that this could be an escalating conflict that could lead to this a battle, a war the likes of which the world has never seen because of who
Fallout.
we're dealing with. Yeah, exactly. You're not talking about their field armies are one thing. Their military is one thing. The reality is that they are the second greatest nuclear power in the world. And so what is happening is that under the table at the same time with the leak of these Pentagon documents or whatever the hell it was, that now, I mean, the motivation of the United States is just this. I do not believe that we're aiding the Ukraine in this effort because we believe in their cause. I believe that it is far more many complex things, least of them, not at all, being the military industrial complex and wanting that money of sending over those weapons and the unbelievable amount of money that's being generated through that.
Yeah.
I think that it's a bit reckless.
Yeah, and I agree. I'll say two things. That first, I wouldn't really worry about Russia. I mean, I could be wrong. Texas has a bigger economy than all of Russia. I mean, I feel like
Texas doesn't have nuclear weapons, though.
They don't. I'm not really. I wouldn't really be nervous. I mean, a type of new age Iron Dome. I just think if one state has a bigger economy than that entire country, I feel like somewhat of it is blown out of proportion. And I'll say this too, though. I'll say this too with one reason why, and I could be skewed in this, one reason why Japan attacked America in World War II was because they were aiding China. We were giving supplies to China. And in a way, and that's why they're like, well, we're Japan, we're attacking China. We can look at that from many different angles. Because now China, look where China is, because Japan was fighting them, and then we fought Japan, we fought Germany, look where Russia is. But without going into that, looking at it from we're aiding Ukraine, what's the difference between us when we aided China when they were fighting Japan and that started World War II? If we're aiding Ukraine, what's the difference between then and now? That is where I'm not saying regardless of if I worry about Russia as a nuclear or army power, and I could be wrong. What do I know about the real intricacies but if you look at it from that perspective, what is the difference? I mean, we're aiding
the whole
China,
thing is this,
and that's our World War II. I mean, with that.
No, exactly. And then here's the scenario: is that okay?
That's why I wouldn't give them.
The two largest communist countries in the world butt into each other: Russia and China. It's the exact same thing. If we are aiding the Ukraine in this way, we are aiding in their war effort, regardless of anything. The path to escalation exists. It's already there. It's just like you said. Yeah. And so
World War II.
Right. And if there is some land to be divvied up, if there's economic power to be divvied up, and Russia wants to go buddy up with China, and it's the exact same thing, look, who knows what happens? The more we talk about it, it's like a Rubik's Cube. It's so complex.
It's like tectonic plates and earthquakes. Like if pressure builds up and there's like a shift, who knows what kind of shift it can cause. But I mean,
would you give money to Ukraine? I mean, is it the same thing as when we gave money to to China, and that started World War II? Now, I don't know. That could be a wrong view. I'm just saying, it's like, I mean, Russia.
Here's the thing, though.
It's like, do I want to get involved in that?
We're not just giving
America.
we're not just giving money to them. There's companies that exist that are making an unbelievable amount of profit from this, that care absolutely not whatsoever about what the outcome of whatever war would be. It's the ugly side of capitalism. Yeah. That despite the consequences, that the number one motive of these companies is to generate profit.
And we learned we were in that class about Russian history, about Ukraine and how the Ukraine and Russia relations went back even since Kievan Rus or whatever, the Viking Age. I mean, they've been fighting over that land. They've been, I mean, it's that kind of outside of our territory, if you know what I'm saying. Like, that's like brother fighting. It's like, should we get involved in brothers fighting? Maybe I could be wrong.
Right.
Like, what do I know? I'm just saying, like,
well,
that is like kind of their business. I mean,
yeah, Israel-Palestine. It's a war that's been going on for millennia,
since David and Goliath.
Yeah,
that's what it is. I mean, regardless if that's the same.
Cain and Abel.
I mean, I for me, and this could be a wrong view, like I said,
day and night.
I would want to stay out of all of it completely. I would say I would focus on my home.
Make love, not war.
Where I live, I'm going to focus on picking up trash in my neighborhood, doing good for my community. I'm like, why do we have to get involved in other people's business?
But dude, that's Jordan Peterson's thing, Jimmy.
It is?
Clean your room before you clean the world.
But I agree with that. I'm like, Well, do we really know about
Uh,
what they're doing? And it's like, why war? Why destroy
oh,
things?
oh, we lost Garrett. Where did Garrett go?
Well, we'll st- we're still here, John. We're still here.
Where's Garrett? Did Garrett have some internet fallout?
Well, we can just end it here then, and just plop
No,
it
no, no,
up.
no. We can bring him back on.
I don't know if he's going to come back. Like I said, I could be wrong with those views. I really don't know, and I'm not going to act like an expert on geopolitical
Oh,
tensions.
oh, I think we're gaining someone. There. Oh, wait. Oh, Garrett. Jimmy.
If Garrett,
Like,
if it could be just his internet.
no, not the internet.
I think going into.
Oh, wait, there he is.
I don't see him.
He's coming back. He's in.
Oh.
Where is he? There he is.
I'm back.
Garrett,
back.
what happened, man?
I would say this instead of focusing.
I don't
It
know.
was fallout.
Well, I'll say this instead of focusing on Ukraine because that's a developing situation and it's also politically dividing. I'd rather just focus even on World War One. I mean, regardless of that.
Oh yeah, for
But
sure.
Jimmy.
See, John,
Controversy.
it could be
brings
controversial,
viewers.
but I mean, that is such a complex situation.
Controversy.
No,
Okay,
it
no,
is,
but
but I mean,
that's the whole thing though.
Jimmy,
It is.
you
It's
give
so-
money to Ukraine, Jimmy.
well, I mean, I don't want to give. Not me. I don't know. I would give it to New Orleans. Jesus.
Yeah, that's
Our
somebody
own
who needs
city
it just
needs
as
it.
much.
I mean,
Dude, I want to give
instead
it to
of
New
missiles
Orleans,
and
Jimmy.
weapons, that sounds
I
awful.
give it to man.
Why missiles and weapons? We need it to. But like, if that could be a hippie idea or something like that. I'm not going to go down that road with it. But World War One, I mean, it's because I think World War I is so bad, it's so horrible, and in ways, obviously this can be argued, in ways so much worse for a soldier than World War Two. I would avoid war at all costs. Give it to them, whatever it is. Like that is just not a fight worth fighting because it's so bad. I think you have to pick
Dude,
and
what
choose.
if they bring it to your shores?
Well, then you know what you have to do. I don't really think that's at our shores right now, though. I think someone could argue that it is, and they could probably give a really good argument. I'll bet. Am I convinced? Maybe. They would have to convince me. I'm willing to be convinced. I'm willing to say I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm willing to be convinced on any of it. It's like I said, these are the same conversations though that occur every time that there's a global conflict. There's no clear-cut answer. And that's why it's crazy when it was just like when COVID happened, like to offer any dissenting opinion, you're blackballed immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's the thing that's crazy. It's that it's like people can have these different, but to silence the differing views and to silence all the different things that are going on in this kind of like hurricane of a scenario, that's what is, I think, most alarming of all.
Yeah.
Forget even the outcome of whatever it is. It's the fact that you can't talk about it. That's insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, and it really is. And I think looking at it like this, if we were to simply say and ask questions of like, okay, if we give more weapons to Ukraine, will it escalate the conflict? Okay, you can ask just the basic question that, yes. If we give less weapons, will it de-escalate the conflict? Maybe. It's just asking basic questions of like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I
Well, that's the thing. Regardless of anything, if we are to play a part in it, I just think that, and look, I could be talking out of my ass. I could be completely wrong in this. I just think, though, that the path is to de-escalation. It's not to increase.
No.
To increase what's going on more, to give jets, to give more violent weapons.
That is just ridiculous.
Because that's the thing. Yeah. If you are Russia at this point, though, and you're like, dude, the America is giving the most powerful weapons in the world to this country that's right on our border that they never cared about period, until 5 minutes ago when we declared war on
Yeah,
them.
it's
We're
concerning.
like a
that's
cornered bulldog. Like, what the hell's up?
And
Like, what
that's
the
a
hell?
declaration
well,
of
and the
war.
thing is this: how
I
many?
think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
how many people? And I think it'd be difficult if you did go to the average American. Not to say that this couldn't happen, and not to say that they couldn't. How many people though could really say, okay, point Ukraine out on a map? I mean, let's
Yeah.
be real here with how a global conflict, is it worth it or not? I mean, I couldn't point out Moldova. Like, there's a lot of countries I couldn't, point out, and that doesn't. I don't think that means anything if you're smart or dumb. It's a matter of like, well, the significance. Like, if it's that significant, if you can't point it out on a map, then it shouldn't be significant enough to give fighter jets and bombs. Like, that is just like,
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing then. Then what is the motivation? Is it because we believe we the people that are sending all that stuff over there, which isn't me. I don't know who the hell it is, but are the
the
people who are
world
sending
so
those
that-
things over there, is their motivation
The
because they truly in their hearts, bottom of their hearts, believe that Ukraine is worth fighting and dying for, and that no matter what, Russia has to be stopped? Or is it something else? But that's the only two
no, no,
possibilities.
no. The argument is that Ukraine's its own sovereign country and they deserve to be free, and that Russia is trying
Okay.
to take away their sovereignty.
Okay, but what about this
Wait.
though?
And as an American, we have to defend the sovereignty. It's basically us being the policemen of the
Okay, but
world.
what about
Man,
what's
I'm
going
not
on
a
in Sudan
policeman.
right now? What about what's going on in Sudan? What about these other conflicts around the world that are occurring in Africa? What about the freaking I mean you could throw out so many different examples. Why are we so attached to the Ukraine?
Well, America's been policing the world like since
JFK
the end of
said
World
that.
War II, in a sense.
Yeah,
Okay, it's this though.
Yeah.
Whenever after
So
9/11, whenever they went into Iraq and Afghanistan, they claimed that they knew that they had intelligence that there was nuclear weapons there. That was later declared utterly false. They had no knowledge of it. They were never there. It was like saying that there were communists
That
in
was the
Vietnam.
same thing in
There
Vietnam.
was
Yeah, it's the same thing in
yeah,
Vietnam.
there were no
but
communists there.
I'm
Russia
not fighting. I'm
Russia
not
Wait,
doing
hold
is
on,
that.
hold on though,
different.
hold on though.
They said the same
Okay,
thing.
Was
in
it that we
Vietnam.
wanted? Did we go to Iraq because A, we were just pissed because of 9/11? B, because we actually thought that they were a threat on the country? Or C, was it actually an economic motivation, which is now, I mean, they're the largest possible oil conglomerates in the entire world. The Saudi princes are the wealthiest people in the world. Their net worth is trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars. So that's the whole thing. What was actually the motivation of it then? What is the motivation of this now? Is it pure belief? Is it because we police the world and we actually believe that, or is it something else? America now has a
Well,
kind
that's
of a
the
bad rap sheet for going into these kind of conflicts in the 20th century and the 21st century.
that's the feel good narrative, is it's for
But
freedom, but Russia is different
It's never
than
about that.
Vietnam,
yeah, but
Iraq. Like Russia is more powerful.
Russia was
They have
Vietnam.
hypersonic.
I don't think they're not bigger than the economy of Texas. I mean, unfortunately, I'm
Yeah, but
not
that's
convinced.
Texas.
I mean, that's one state out of 50, not including territories.
Oh yeah, no.
Not
I mean,
including
okay,
territories.
then you get into the argument that could America be so powerful that they're like the Roman Empire and that everyone is subservient to the Roman Empire. And you could make a super solid argument
Yeah,
for
you
that.
know,
You could take
I
that to
think-
the
So they
grave.
think, though. The Romans thought, though. They weren't, though, on the peripheries.
yeah.
Yeah. It's just hypersonic ballistic missiles sounds a little scary.
I
so,
think-
it's good to just scare people
I
a little
think-
bit. It brings attention.
I think this goes into the question. I'm going back to the TikTok thing because I mean,
What?
like I said, because it's like I think, are we attacking TikTok because of we are scared of the communist government, or is it a matter of
Oh, no.
control?
No.
Is it a matter of control?
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe that whatsoever. That
think
the
it's
sole
money.
motivation of these people. When you look, okay, go back to
Yeah.
this. When you look at, and it's from both sides of the aisle. I'm not
Yeah.
just attacking the Democratic Party here. When you look at the political contributions of these companies, you sent this yesterday. It was all, I mean, if you look at every
Yeah.
one of the big tech companies, it was 99% all contributed to one side of the aisle. It is
Yeah.
clear political affiliation. It is clear that they have skin in the game of politics, that these companies have skin in the game of politics. And if they have skin in the game of politics, guess what? Politics has a skin in the game of those companies. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's the exact same thing. Do they actually care at all? Like, why say like TikTok? Dude, YouTube, Facebook, all these other companies, they reap your data far more and discreetly than if the communist government did it. At least they're honest. At least they're come out and say, yeah, we're communists.
Yeah. What's the difference?
Apple has more money than most countries in the world.
That's right.
They are a country. That's what I think that they're just kingdoms today. Really. I mean, if you talk about someone who has power in the world, dude, they have power.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, like I said, I won't say that I know what's the right answer. It's mostly just looking at it objectively and discussing it.
Jimmy, for some reason, I can't see you.
No, I can't. I can't see you.
I can only see John.
Yeah, I don't know.
John, can you see both people?
I can see.
Yeah,
both
I can't. I can't.
I can only see you, John. I feel like you did something.
Yeah, I can only see you, John.
I didn't do anything.
What'd you do, John?
That's a cool shirt, though, Garrett.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Do y'all have an option under your menu to like, click people or do something like that?
No, I don't. And I'm not going to mess with it right now because we'll just because we can just close this up. It's almost 26, 30 minutes, and they get.
Well, yeah. Let's at least send it past 30. Let's see.
Yeah, like I said, I leave it that I don't know what the answer is, and I'm not trying to.
Wait.
But pick a side. But that's the whole thing with Socrates.
That's right.
Back to the Socratic method is that every single person that he talked to claimed that they had knowledge of a certain thing.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, whether it be art, mathematics, poetry, politics, especially worldly affairs, all that stuff. So he went to them and just applied the Socratic method. And every single one of them actually knew nothing.
That's right.
They were all completely biased. It had nothing. But that's the whole thing is that, dude, he was killed for that. Because he was inquiring about the state of things.
Because,
that's the same thing today. It's censorship.
Well, that's the same thing. It'd be like, okay, right here, if we were to use the Socratic method, regardless of any affiliation, okay, is America going after TikTok only for the pure fact of the communist government? Or is there reasons for type of, I'm trying to think of the right word, commercial aggressiveness? Going against another company, is that the only reason they're going after that, or how
about this
competitiveness?
Here's another question. Okay, let's give America the benefit of the doubt and saying that part of the reason is because they believe the Chinese government is doing X, Y, and Z with TikTok. Okay, here's this question: what's the percentage that the people that are in power who are pursuing this are going after it for financial incentives? Is it 0 or is it anything above 0?
Yeah. And honestly, another thing would be what type of politicians were elected based upon those social media platforms. It would be like if someone gained the position of power and those platforms threaten it, it's like what percentage of that? So
I think like most things are done because of money.
Yeah, well, that's just the real world. I mean, that's just life. And I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to say what's wrong or right. It's mostly just looking at it objectively. It could be wrong with it.
We did lose Garrett again.
Must be his Wi-Fi. Well, then let's just close. Let's just close it up.
Wi-Fi.